Welcome to the American Grown Podcast, hosted by Austin Sullivan. The American Grown Podcast will focus on people from different walks of life and their journey to where they are now. Now, turn up your volume and settle in for a great episode.
Hi, I'm Austin Sullivan, and I'm your host for the American Grown Podcast, recorded inside the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Today, we have Bryan Smith. He is a community leader serving Lebanon County for over 25 years as a paramedic and now as Executive Director of Lebanon County Christian Ministries. Bryan, welcome to episode 7 of the American Grown Podcast.
What's up, Austin?
Hey, so glad you could
I got to call you Sully on here, huh?
Yeah, yeah, you could for the listeners out there. Sullivan being my last name. A lot of people in high school, a lot of friends nicknamed me Sully. And, of course, Monsters, Inc. came out, and that took off. So it just was a good fit being a bigger guy and everything. But, yeah, welcome.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've noticed that everywhere I drive, I've seen the WellSpan billboards all over the county with your pictures on. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So that's been pretty interesting journey. I think I've been excited that WellSpan chose to have me kind of represent the bariatric surgery process and transitioning for a new life and probably really that's what's changed my life. It's changed an awful lot of my life. Had a lot of factors coming together at the same time, but yes, I have a friend in marketing there who had reached out and said, "Hey, can we use you?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And it was just like maybe pre-COVID, during COVID, and and then it took forever. Obviously, COVID kind of put a stall on a lot of things. And she texted me one day and she said, "Get ready, they're about to go out." And funny story, my wife was traveling for work and she was in Waynesboro, and she texted me. She's like, "You're on a billboard in Waynesboro." I think people don't think about it. It was branded WellSpan. It was across the whole WellSpan footprint.
Yeah.
My son was on YouTube one night and he's like, "Daddy, I just saw your, commercial on
Really?
YouTube." Yeah. So there was like
Okay.
YouTube commercials and TV commercials, but there was interesting story just shared with me from my dad the other night.
Yeah.
There was a poster board, and probably still is a poster board in one of the elevators at the hospital. And so I still have a lot of connections and friends at the hospital from my paramedic days. And they were sharing with me, "Hey, this is up. We see this, we go to work and we see your face every morning." And but my dad had a coworker who just had gone through the bariatric surgery process, and my dad was asking me, "Hey, so what made you decide to do this?"
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask. Yeah.
And this gentleman said, "Oh, actually, your son inspired me." And I don't think it ever really hit me that there was this chance that people were going to see this and it would inspire them to maybe do the same thing. And unfortunately, this gentleman's wife was in the hospital, so he'd been going in on a regular basis, and he'd see it every day. And next thing you know, he made the call, and he's had the procedure done and is doing well. So, I think it's great. It's a cool opportunity for me to have been very personal in the decision, but now have other folks, be benefiting from surgery.
Yeah, to have an impact on this gentleman, like you said, going in the hospital, you don't realize all the people that you can impact, and touch. Now, like I said, you look great.
Yeah, thanks.
Confidence boost, I'm sure, right?
It's funny. My wife and I talk about it a lot. The cross sector of me having surgery, I had August 12th of 2019 was my surgery date. September is when I transitioned to my new role at Lebanon County Christian Ministries.
Okay.
So I had this kind of faith growth that was going on pre the surgery. And then they kind of collided and just really began to mold the Bryan in today versus the Bryan that wasn't always a great guy years ago. I don't know if I'm a great guy now, but I know that from a decision making process, I know what drives my decision making. And it's certainly, I think it's a confidence thing, but I know that my wife said before, you don't seek the attention from folks for confidence. Now you have your own confidence, which is really powerful when you start thinking about it. You're like, I didn't realize that's what was kind of driving me. But for me, my driving, I had my knee replaced at 36 years old. Okay. So always being a big guy, played football, played baseball, played ice hockey. When you're 36 years old and having a significant surgery like that, and then you can relate it back to his personal decisions, right? It was the fact that I had not taking good care of myself.
Yeah.
And then I had a little guy at the time who's 10 now, and I was struggling to walk up and down the steps pre-knee replacement carrying him because it hurt so bad.
Okay.
And then I'm looking at him and realizing that I missed out with my older boys a little bit on that playful journey because I was a big guy. And I said, you know, I got to do something here. I'd not been to the family doctor for a very long time. Paramedics are very well known for not taking care of yourself.
Okay.
Number one.
Yeah.
I think healthcare in general, often that's the case. But I had decided that it was time for me to finally go to the doctor at 42 years old. And saw Tom Merchant, recommended from some good friends of mine. And Tom came in and, you know, did the cordial thing. And then he said, dude, like, what are you trying to do? You trying to kill yourself? And I think that was like the eye opener, like, yeah, like this is not good for myself. And, you know, within 3 weeks I had blood work done. I was the healthiest unhealthy guy in the universe. And I decided it was time for me to do something. So Jason Maroon did the surgery, out of Wellspan Bariatrics, out of the Effort office. And, you know, I get the feedback on, you know, was surgery necessary? You know, was that the thing that did you have to go to that drastic expense? So, but I'll tell you that for me, it was the right decision.
Do you think paramedics and people in the healthcare field put others first out of the health of themselves? Do you think that was, you know, a big decision maker for you? You know, you're always taking care of others and never really taking time to look at yourself, at your health.
I think it's a couple things. If you look at, I'll say firefighters for career firefighters. So
Okay.
I'm talking about folks that go to work, punch in, ride on a fire engine for a 24-hour shift, ride on a ladder truck for a 24-hour shift. Many of those places have fitness policies, right? You have to pass some physical agility tests. Some of those guys, they have it built into their schedule to go do an hour of cardiovascular work during their shift. And in most places, fire personnel are paid a livable wage. Police officers, you know, and they're governmental, right? They're municipal jobs. They've got fairly good healthcare benefits. They've got, you know, retirement. Police officers, right? I mean, you want to see somebody protecting your own community that is fit and is healthy. And they're municipal police officers, and they have got a retirement plan, and they've got healthcare. That in this area particularly does not exist for EMS. EMS is typically nonprofit, community-based. We're seeing a increasing number of hospital-based healthcare systems, but the pay has always been fairly low. And you certainly weren't working one job, so you're working two jobs, or you're working three jobs. You're working 80 hours a week.
Wow.
You weren't seeing the family. You were running calls from the start of your shift to the end of your shift. You were eating a sandwich in the front of the ambulance going to a call. So everything was set up to just not be as healthy. I think many EMS providers say, well, I don't have time to take care of myself. I'm taking care of other people. And now Bryan 2022 would say, you know, that's a load of poop. Like let's like get real with this and say, you need to build into your life ways to take care of yourself, because you won't live a life if you don't take care of yourself.
An analogy or something that comes to mind is when you're on an airplane, they say the air masks are coming down, you know, put yours on first so you can help others. I think that ties in well. You know, if you're not taking care of yourself and healthy, then how can you help others for years down the road? You know, if you look at the short term, the quick fix, you know, I'll take care of other people, but it's yourself, and then building out from there. Well,
dude, I love analogies.
Yeah.
And you just,
was that good?
That was a great one.
Okay, thanks,
like,
bro.
I'm like listening to you do. I'm like, man, there's so many things in life that you can apply that to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, just, you know, life in general, take care of yourself first,
Yeah.
and then you take care of those around you. Fantastic.
And while you were at First Aid and Safety Patrol here in Lebanon, the staff that I believe you led, your executive director, was roughly 130, and this kind of shocked me was you handled roughly 29,000 incidents annually.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we always said it when I worked there. First Aid and Safety Patrol was one of the best kept secrets in town, and didn't want to be a best kept secret. One of the things on my way out the door was that the municipalities were beginning to step up and starting to help fund first aid, which was a huge deal for them. Right now, being able to replace capital and purchasing vehicles, and it helps boost morale of the team. We went through phases where we were just constantly looking for businesses to try to get income. I mean, it's no different than, owning your own private business. When things are down, you go find business. So we handle a lot of calls, and they're still a very, very busy organization. They have a great partnership with WellSpan, handle a lot of transfers out of a lot of different places, and then provide 911 services to a nice portion of Lebanon County.
So let's throw it back for the listeners. Early childhood, what was your life like? What was it like growing up, and your parents, siblings, in high school, things like that?
I grew up in Annville, so good old small town Annville. I look back on my childhood now and realize how fortunate I was. I don't think I ever would have been able to feel that as a kid. I think my wife and I say that about our kids now, is that, man, I hope that there's a day they look back and realize how blessed they were. So I grew up in Annville. We lived right along what's now the Quitapilla Park. And back then it was not the Quitapilla Park. It was our four-wheeler motorcycle riding, bicycle riding, fishing spot that nobody ever came to. And it's nice to see it transition over the years. Annville's a small town. My grandma and grandpa owned a hardware store and roofing business.
Okay.
So my dad was a roofer in town, and we used to go to the hardware store and see grandma, and run past our grandpa and grab candy off the candy rack on the way to see grandma. My mom was a beautician in Annville for, she had her own shop for 40 some years. She was a beautician for 50 years. It was in our house, in our basement. We used to always say, if you want to share a message, you telephone, you tell a marketer, and you tell a Debbie. And my mom's name is Debbie. So,
Okay.
I always say you didn't get away with much in Annville. Great community. Went to Annville Clinton High School, graduated in 1995. I was blessed. I was blessed as a young man. I have a sister that's 2 years younger than me. And, it was very good.
At your time at high school, do you remember a certain teacher or mentor, anyone that helped you?
You're kind of prepping for this. I don't know that there was, one to sit and say that there was one. Annville is a small school, right?
Right.
Cedar Crest. I'm on the school board at Cornwall, Lebanon now. Yeah. And my kiddos, I had 3 boys that graduated from Cedar Crest last year. And it's different when you're at a school. We graduated 125. My boys graduated 375 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So
I think that every teacher had the opportunity to have some type of impact in your day, being as small as we were. I played baseball and football in high school. I didn't play football my senior year. I blew my knee out my junior year. So I played fall baseball, getting ready for a baseball season. A lot of folks don't know I sang in the chorus, the chorale, our madrigals, like our morning, get there early a cappella group, played the trombone. We kind of did a little bit of that music and sports things together. Again, small school, you can kind of get those opportunities to be a bigger fish than you actually are in a small pond. So it was good. I really enjoyed being in Annville.
And looking back on those after school activities, for all the listeners out there, whether they're going into high school or maybe freshman to college, would you recommend those to students? What are your thoughts? Because sometimes parents are like, hey, it's school first, academics, a part-time job, because they have to. Maybe family situation makes them, and some kids, I feel like, sometimes maybe you grow up a little too fast. Time flies, and all of a sudden you blink and you're working a full-time job, or you're in college, and you missed out those opportunities to play baseball, to be playing piano, to be an artist.
As much as opportunities, they are also accountabilities.
Okay.
So for me, I was joking around. I was never the most academic kid. I was a BC student. Even in my medical studies as a paramedic, on the street, I was golden. I could treat people well, and I understood what needed to happen. But sitting down and taking a test was not always my forte. Sports and extracurriculars made me pay attention to what was going on with my academics, and that was that was a big deal, I think. But so there are opportunities for kids to be engaged. I think that every individual student is different. Like I said, we have 3 boys that graduated last year. My stepsons are twins, and my son. And my son hit a golf ball pretty far.
Yeah.
He was a good hockey player. He was on the Cedar Crest hockey team, varsity leader all 4 years.
Nice.
But his academics drove me crazy. Like we just battled with it all the time. He was one that benefited from COVID because his senior year, from January through graduation, he was working full time in an internship. My stepsons are extremely gifted academically, but always keeping kids engaged. And I think it's engaged into school and it's engaged into the community because the school has to be part of the community.
It definitely ties and brings everyone together, brings the families because they're there to watch their son or daughter, compete. And then, like you said, maybe they then get involved with the schools to better the educational system and be more a part of their child's lives as they're growing up. So now after high school, college or right into work?
Ish.
College-ish. Ish, okay.
I went right to paramedic school. So in high school, I was 16 years old when I took my EMT class, and 17 when I finished it.
Okay.
And I'd been volunteering at the Anvil Fire Department when I was 16 years old, and I knew that I wanted to do this as a career. So I head to Pittsburgh, went to the Center for Emergency Medicine, January of 1996, the year 6 months after I graduated high school. And to attend a paramedic program back then was a full-time 6-month program. So I was in class 2 days a week for 8 hours, and then I rode on the city medic units for my student time. Went to Presby, well, it's UPMC now, but it was Presby back then, to the emergency department, went to Children's Hospital, went to the Women's and Babies, went to the Burn Center, all these places for our clinical time. So I graduated there in June of 1996, and I received my state certification in July of 1996. So I say college-ish. Paramedic school was extremely intense, very, very, very high-paced. As an adult, I've taken some classes, still working towards kind of finishing up a degree, but... Yeah, paramedic school is it.
What was that like when you mentioned like the burn center and things like that? Being, a teenager, being younger, what was it like to see those things?
Yeah. I look back now, and my boys are all 19 now, and I'm thinking, man, I was shocking people and putting tubes down people's throats, and
saving lives. Like holy
carrying narcotics and just the accountability, responsibility at 19. I don't think I ever really appreciated how intense it was then. But when you're in that environment, you're like so wrapped up into like learning, right? And for me, it was like. Mikey Wise, so Mikey was a Reading City police officer that was killed in line of duty.
Yes. Yep.
Mikey was my paramedic preceptor in Pittsburgh, so he was from here, right? So he was a city paramedic at the time out there, and I couldn't wait to go hang with Mike, right? I couldn't wait to like go see what was next out there. I couldn't wait for my time to go to the OR in Children's Hospital. It was pretty awesome. I never once thought, geez, I'm only 18 years old and I'm doing this, right?
Yeah,
so I lived in an apartment by myself. Probably was the beginning of the demise of some of my weight gain. I went from being really active in school to sitting in a classroom running on a paramedic unit and had macaroni and cheese and hot dogs in my refrigerator. I'm 18 years old. I don't know what I'm doing out there, right?
Right.
But it was good. It was. I don't regret any of those decisions at all.
That has to be instilled in you, that responsibility, that sense of responsibility. Do you think that came from your family, your parents? Say, hey, this is what I want to do, and you set your mind to it.
I think some of it was absolutely like my mind was set. That's what I was going to do, and I didn't have a plan B.
Okay,
there wasn't like a fail out of paramedic school, and then I'm going to go do this. It was, this is what I was going to do. But it was certainly instilled by my parents. And my mom and dad both were hard workers. There was nothing that we got as kiddos that we didn't recognize the work that my parents put in to be able to provide that. My parents also instilled in me that we had some responsibility. I paid for paramedic school out of my pocket. I worked at Seltzer's Bologna 2 summers, throwing bolognas in a smokehouse, earning money. I went to paramedic school with a bunch of money in my checking account, wrote a check that day to pay for school, paid rent for an apartment, and came home with like $35 in my checking account. I remember my parents made me earn money to buy my first, stereo that had the 2 tape players with a CD on the top, and you could record from tape to tape. But
oh wow!
So I think my parents absolutely instilled a lot of that in me, and I hopefully I've done that, and I'm doing that with my own kids too.
Do you have any life mentors or people that have helped you along the way in both kind of career paths?
There's a human mentor and then a spiritual mentor.
Yeah.
Obviously, at this point in my life, Jesus Christ is a big mentor to me. You said bring something along that you can bring along.
Yeah.
I brought my Bible.
I noticed that.
I've read a lot of leadership books over the years, and I've really strived to be a good leader. Just finished a book called Lead Like Jesus. I've got I could get into a debate over servant leadership and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But no matter how deep you dive into books, the leadership lessons of life are right here in the Bible.
Yeah.
That being said, a human mentor for me absolutely was a guy by the name of Steve Lyle. Steve was the executive director of the Emergency Health Services Federation, and there was a period of my EMS career where I had gone to the regional council for about 2.5 years. Again, extremely young to be doing what I was doing.
Right.
I was leading an 8-county area, leading the physicians group that was meeting to talk about standards of care and how we were changing the care in EMS. And I was doing regulatory investigations into providers and licensing of ambulances. Steve was my boss there, and he is the most humble, inspiring leader that I could have ever worked with. And to this day, I still stay in contact with Steve. And I wish that I would be where I am now spiritually. I wish that I could have been that spiritual then, because he was there, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe because he was there, he was mentoring me in ways that I didn't even know. He was right in ways in ways that I didn't even truly understand then, and now I do. Right now I get it.
Right.
So Steve's an incredible guy.
Okay, you're passionate, obviously the Lord and Jesus Christ, but then I would say serving others and serving the community. But what do you think your passion is in life?
I think that is continuing to evolve for me. When I left, I had a really strong understanding of the EMS system. Whether people agreed with the direction I wanted to take something or not, that's okay. We could always agree or disagree on that. But when I left EMS and went to LCCM, man, I knew nothing about feeding people who were hungry, clothing people who were naked, or housing people who were homeless.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't. I've been diving into it, and I've got an incredible team over at LCCM. Folks that have been there for a long time, folks that are newer that have incredible experience, incredible smarts. So as I look at some of these books that I'm reading and the programs that we're trying to institute, I think that my passion right now is to get as many people as I can connect with to realize their own potential, their own God-given potential, realize that God has placed so many perfect things in every single person. But the number one thing is to believe in yourself, and then obviously believe in Jesus Christ.
If you believe in yourself and you set your mind to it, you can achieve great things,
Absolutely.
and things that people would think are impossible. Because I saw in the form, and for listeners out there, to be on the American Grown podcast, you fill out a roughly 30-question form, and some questions seem random. My wife helped me, so shout out to Courtney. She helps me even write up the scripts that I go off of, because sometimes I ad-lib, but it's nice to have some notes. The one thing on your form I kept seeing, it was a book, 40 Days of Social Media Fasting, and then just social media fasting in general, which I find amazing, because people nowadays, and I'm guilty of it myself, glued to your phone or your computers. I think on there you said you're off of Facebook, and how'd that impact your life?
So this is a story inside of stories. Every season, we have this season called Lent, right? So Ash Wednesday comes, and we're entering into Lent season, and everybody walks around and says, "What are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent?" And so we are heading to our Lenten service, our Ash Wednesday service at church. And it was probably one of the most powerful and impactful services that I've ever attended, and it was very little of a service. We had one of our team members at church who had shared her testimony, and it was powerful and it was awesome. But they broke us up into like like stations. You went to a different station. So
Okay.
one station you went to and you read through something and you did communion as a family. And we had bags with like stuff in it. And there, my young man, Brady, our 10-year-old, he had his bag and it was a kid's bag version. And things like we went to the one station and we took a pipe cleaner and you made a shape of a person out of it. And then there were mirrors there on it, and you looked in the one mirror and it said how God sees you, and the other mirror said how the public sees you. And it was just like that reflection of when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see yourself as God sees you, perfect and a child of God? Or do you look at it and say, oh, I'm overweight and I'm ugly and I don't have hair and my hair's ugly color and my hair's a mess. And
Right.
how do you look at yourself? So we're going through these different stations, and we get over to the station and it says, this is what giving something up for Lent really means. It's fasting from something. It's just taking something that's in your life and taking it away. And how does it change you? And my wife says, oh, I already ordered a book on giving up social media for Lent. And I'm like, sure you are.
Right.
She's like, Brian, I'm serious. I'm giving it up. Like, I think it just puts the stress on me. She's like, there's things I have to do for work, but I'm going to do them on my computer and not my phone.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't think I can. Like, I don't think I can give up social media.
Right. It's such a big part of everyone's life. And some people live through it, posting pictures where they travel or updating family. And somehow that's how people stay connected, across the country. So to give it up does seem like a very big undertaking.
Yeah. So I said, all right, if you're going to do this, I'll do it, and I'll read this book with you. You have to appreciate that for years of my life, I hated reading. It's only like in the last year where I've like finally said, I'm going to slow my life down to the point where I'm going to read. So we're reading this book. It's 40 days of Lent, social media fasting. Just read through each one. And I still have not got back on social media, and Lent is long over.
Yeah.
I still am. I get on to, maybe post, hey, the new meal is at LCCM Saturday and Sunday this weekend. But, I have some team members that handle most of that on a regular basis. I'll get on just to see the engagements. But on my personal side, my daughter got married last weekend. So,
congrats. Yeah,
thanks. So, Monday I jumped on just to look to see if I could see some pictures, and I was back off again. And also what I really realized through this process is there's a weight that gets placed on your shoulders through social media because people can be keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
People put out a false facade of what perfect life. We begin to look at social media and think that that's what we need to look like and to act like and to do. That becomes the social norm, right? That becomes the norm of what we're supposed to do materialistically as a community,
right?
Versus going to this paper-based book and saying, this is what, we're supposed to be living our lives like.
Right.
Not like that. I don't want to live my life like my neighbor or my friend. I want to live my life like Jesus Christ. So, and I found myself getting angry and yelling at posts that, people, just crazy. So it's gone. I'm checked out of it.
I agree with you 100% because I feel like you get caught up in the nonsense of social media, whether it's so-and-so posts this and all of a sudden you're angry at that person. You may know, you might not have seen them since high school or something, but they post this one image or one thing and whether it be, like I said, political or just something going on in the world, and you're like, you judge that person right away. And it shouldn't be like that. You should know them in person, meet them in person. And I think as a society, this is just my thought, the days when kids would get together and play baseball and just do it on their own or play football. Now it's, hey, come over to the house, we'll play the Xbox, we'll get on the PlayStation. And I don't know if people are as close. I don't know. Social media, if it brings people closer or not.
I feel like sometimes it's a disingenuous closeness. I'll give you a quick example. In that same period of that social media fasting through the Lenten season, my 10-year-old, their goal was to give up something for a week, right? Just try to keep it in perspective for the span of a 10-year-old. And he says, I'm giving up Xbox and YouTube. And I said, okay, dude. And he had been into playing Fortnite or whatever on Xbox, and he was on YouTube and he's watching stupid videos on there. And I said, all right, sounds good, man. So a week went by, and we had bought him a Fitbit. And that week, every day, he was like, oh, I got 20,000 steps today.
Whoa.
I got 24,000 steps today. I got 20,000.
Yeah.
He is ready for bed at night. He's out riding bike. He's out shooting pellet gun. He's out
living life,
shooting basketball. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be like to be 10,
Yeah.
And I said, buddy, have you noticed that you've not had a smart mouth with us? You're tired at night.
Yeah.
You're ready for bed. You're sleeping good. You're school's going good.
Mm-hmm.
He changed by eliminating those things. And we could get into, there's a gazillion books out there about how technology impacts our kids, but until you see it happen, he would come to me to the point of, friendship. He'd come to me and say, Dad, I got this best friend on Fortnite. I said, dude, you've never met your best friend. He's a couple letters on the thing that shot some fake dude. Like,
yeah.
what? So he's not been back to the Xbox. He's got limited time on YouTube. He used to sit. This is when I knew. This is when I like, okay, we have a problem. He used to have his Xbox on with Fortnite, and I'd walk in to check on him, and he'd have his iPad watching somebody play Fortnite, and I'm like, bro, we're done.
Yeah.
Like this is
a lot going on.
This is not okay. Like
Yeah.
I appreciate someday you're gonna need to multitask, but this is not okay. So,
yeah.
yeah.
To go back to 2011, I graduated Cedar Crest. I went to Kutztown, and I was on the track and field. And I mentioned this a couple episodes earlier, but we had practice, an hour practice. I didn't take my PlayStation with. I didn't take any video games, anything like that. You weren't watching TV. And I got in the best shape of my life. Now, honestly, 40, 50 pounds I lost. And now part of that was, yes, the workout for track was brutal. It was excruciating, an hour to 2 hours, throwing, lifting, running, which if you know me, I'm not much of a runner. So, it was tough. I remember the first day having to flip this big tire, like tractor trailer tire or whatever it was. And it was tough. And I do think not having, again, those video games, the TV to sit in front of, after classes was huge. And also to tie in, like you were saying, social media gives a fake facade of, you have to look like, for young women and for men, this is the ideal body. You should have a six pack, or you should have long blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever it is. I think the social media, by cutting that out, you're not as anxious, maybe. Yeah. You're not trying to compete with somebody you don't even know. Yeah,
and I think the same thing, these all come together, right? So if I eliminate my phone time of scrolling through senselessly, this like just dumb scroll.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yep.
You don't even know what you scrolled through. There are plenty of images on there that are not good for a person's eyes that will lead you in a position. We just went through this at our men's ministry. We were going through, just talking about different things. And one of the things we were talking about is like, when you're scrolling and all of a sudden it pops up a picture of a, young lady in a bikini, what do you do with that? And just, there's no pictures of young women in a bikini in the word, right? I mean, so like, let's spend our time doing something like
valuable
reading, right? And exercising your brain, exercising, period. So my wife and I used to watch Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and we'd binge watch them. And I can't even tell you the last time we watched it because, when I get home from work, my schedule is home from work. Then it's an hour to an hour and a half of working out, eating dinner, spend some time together, reading, getting a cup of coffee. This time of year we're out on the deck.
Yeah.
So I just let's fill our lives with stuff that's gonna. I want to know what my wife did today. I don't want to know what these other guys' wives are doing.
I do that with Courtney sometimes, all the time. We tell about our days. I'll say, "Hey, how was your day?" And she'll give me a rundown. Hers is normally pretty brief, and then of course she'll listen to me go on and on about work and the family business and things, all good things. But it's nice to have someone to vent to, and just put the phone down and get off of social media right now. The biggest thing that is killing my time, and I know it is, but it's this TikTok. Have you heard of that app? I know I'm 30 years old, but TikTok. And I remember it came out right around COVID, I believe it was. It was like a perfect time because people are home, and I'm like, I'm not getting on it. Because I remember, I think my sister or something and then all of a sudden I'm like, it's addicting. It really is. And I hate to say it, but I feel like, for the listeners out there, I feel like, I can't be the only one, but it's addicting. So that is something I'm trying to get better at, is just saying, what, why, like you said, waste time, do something valuable, whether it's working out, walking for 30 minutes to an hour, reading a book. Cause I like to read. And I honestly, when I was younger, I read a lot. And now it's just like phone constantly.
Yeah. TikTok would have never made it back, 25 years ago, because we had to get up off the couch, dial in to the internet, right? Go through, and you'd sit there, and those videos would have been like, they've been stuttering through, and like now you sit on your phone, you don't have to get up off the couch, and it's just right there. So, I think one of the things that I've always used as a life lesson when I'm leading somebody and they're making decisions is, if something is going to be easy, it's probably always the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That the right thing is often more difficult to do. So if you think about it, if it's easy to just get on your phone and just Amazon.
Oh, I hate Amazon.
Right? Like we do this all the time. I say to my wife, like, these poor Amazon guys, like they just like get up every day, like we're going there again, you know, because it's like, oh, I want this.
It's convenient.
And it's at your house in a day or two. And, is it the right thing? We're spending money that we don't need to spend. So I don't know. I like to go back to if it's going to be more difficult, it's probably the right thing. If it's really, really easy, you should probably think twice about it.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, because I was going to ask you, what's your average day like, day to day, now that you are the executive director at Lebanon County Christian Ministries?
Yeah. So life has changed.
Yeah.
For me, pre LCCM in the EMS world, every 911 call went to my phone. Incident reports went to my phone.
Every
call that our ambulance was going on, I would get an alert. We had an app that I would get an alert, and it wasn't that I had to go anywhere. It was just that I wanted to know where our units were going, when we were getting covered, when we were covering somebody else. I wanted to be in the know. Battalion chief pass on reports, incident reports, all these things. They're constantly, it's information. Like you want information, suck it in, suck it in. And when I made this transition, one of the things I committed to was I was not going to just be that engulfed. Like I just was not going to be that sucked into it. It doesn't mean that I don't care, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to work hard. Sure. I dig what I do. I love what I do, but I'm getting old, so that means that I automatically just get up at a certain time in the morning. I don't set an alarm anymore, but 6:30 I just wake up. And I don't rush around in the house anymore. I go down, I get a cup of coffee. I usually do some type of reading, whether it's devotional reading or a book that I'm reading. And then I make some breakfast. I eat breakfast every day. I used to never eat breakfast, but every day it's 2 or 3 eggs every morning.
Nice.
Make sure my little guy's up and ready, moving towards school, get showered, make sure I get him on the bus in the morning. Just something I've committed to, just making sure I'm there for him. Head into work. Have my day. I was still in the business that I'm still in. We still deal with crisis management where things are happening and changing. But I literally schedule into my week 5 to 6 hour workouts. I ride bike, I run, I lift weights, swim. Just try to really make sure all of that stuff is getting done.
Yeah.
Try to make sure that calories in and calories out have a balance.
Do you count on an app or anything like that?
I don't. One of the interesting things, and actually I've just recently kind of gone through some kind of self-reflection on this again.
Yeah.
One of the things when you go through a procedure like a gastric sleeve is your stomach becomes the size of about a quarter cup. So you're limited to what you're going to be able to eat. And, people around me would hear me say, I can eat anything that I want as long as I don't eat too much, because I can't eat too much. Mm-hmm. And so that journey led me to about the bottomed out 197, 195. I was 364 pounds when I started this journey.
Okay.
And then I plateaued and really balanced out naturally at about 205, 210. And I started lifting. My doc's like, hey, okay, you got the exercise part down of, aerobic. Now you need to start lifting, right? So started lifting, and then I started getting a little bit stronger. And I'm like, my legs are bigger than they ever had been. I'm feeling stronger. And scale went to like 219, 220. I'm like, that's all right. I'm lifting, And recently I just read a book called The Daniel Plan. Rick Warren, pastor at Saddleback Church, wrote it with Dr. Amen and Dr. Ahmet. And the premise behind the book is if it's grown, if it's made on a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, don't eat it.
That's great.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So you think about it, like potato chips, like you don't go them off the potato chip tree, but you get a carrot out of the ground, right?
Right, or an apple. Yeah.
So just that the 2 weeks that I was reading it, there was 1 week where I started paying attention to what I was putting in my body, and just starchy stuff or peanut buttery stuff or whatever. And in that week, I started kind of shedding some pounds real quick. And then the next week we went on vacation. Not good timing for that. But so do I track it? I don't really sit down and track exactly. I eat a lot of the same things, 2 or 3 eggs for breakfast. So oftentimes I'm eating 2 or 3 eggs for dinner as well. I eat, non-fat vanilla Greek yogurt, put fresh produce on it, a little bit of protein granola on it. That's my lunch frequently. Carrots, peppers, cucumbers. Those are my snacks.
I'm just going to assume, but cut out all soda, all chips.
Yeah, I was never really a big soda guy.
Oh, okay.
But soda, any bubbly stuff is out once you have this procedure done. So bubbly stuff is out. So I don't drink. I drink vitamin water zero.
Okay. Yep.
This is like my go-to. This is my problem, I guess, if you will. So coffee, straight. No cream, no sugar. I've always been a straight coffee guy. Vitamin water, those are my drinks. I don't eat a lot of chips and stuff. My arch nemesis is those little peanut butter filled pretzels.
Oh yeah.
As a matter of fact, my wife is on her way back from Sam's Club right now, and I said, please don't buy any more of those.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get them out of the house. Because
they're banned.
They are the devil.
I know what you're talking about. They're good. They're
Yeah.
very good. That sweet and saltiness.
Yep.
The two jobs, how do they compare? Because you've been at the one a long time,
I thought when I left first aid, I was like, all right, those relationships, those people are good. I would love to still stay in contact. I won't ever probably talk to them.
Right.
It is ridiculous how these two worlds have collided and been so similar. So first off, I'm at LCCM for 6 months and we have COVID hit. Yeah. So immediately doing planning, emergency planning and stuff,
right.
And, with our homeless shelter, what are we going to do? What are the plans? What are we going to, constantly looking at health and safety protocols. Are we, doing the right thing, balancing out all the stuff that everybody had to balance out. Now I'm realizing how important food and shelter are to basic necessities and how they relate to person's medical. And it's crazy. So there's this program out there, Food is Medicine, right? So when somebody's being discharged from a hospital or they go to the doctor and they identify that, they have high blood pressure, they have high cholesterol, they have diabetes, all of those have something to do with food. Right?
Yeah.
If you eat pizza every day, you're going to get high blood pressure. Right? If you eat peanut butter cups as your main source of protein during the day, it's going to cause a diabetic emergency. So food really is medicine, and we're looking at ways at LCCM that we can do better on the food distribution side, that it becomes medicine for those that we're serving, because the cycle is that oftentimes folks that are living in poverty, folks that are living in Alice, they are the individuals that are needing a healthier food option because they can't buy it. When you go in the grocery store, if you're going to go in a grocery store and shop, you should always stay on the outside.
Really?
Have you ever heard that? Yeah.
No.
Next time you go to the grocery store, pay attention to this.
Yeah, tell me.
If you go into the grocery store and you make a left-hand turn, at Giant out on 72, you got to get past like all their bakery stuff first, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But you go around there, and all on the outside is your fresh produce, your fresh fruits and vegetables.
Okay, I can picture it.
You go around the backside, you get into your fish and your meats and stuff, right? So now you're getting into your proteins.
Yeah.
And as you go down through, then you get into your dairy products.
Milk and
then
cheese,
you come around there, you get into your eggs.
Okay.
Right? And then you get into, I think then they kind of maybe there's some breads on the end there.
Yeah.
So if you do that, right, you could literally just go one loop around and head right out.
And you're good.
When you start going up and down the aisles, you get into spices, you get into sugary stuff, like pancakes are in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Your sugary syrups are in the middle. Your canned fruits, and when you go to canned fruits versus fruits on the outside, canned fruits are there are tons of preservatives and sugars and stuff, like they're in a syrup, right?
Yeah.
So when you start getting into those things, now there's a difference, right? If I'm buying a bag of fresh apples or if I'm buying canned pears are probably going to be cheaper. Right. So you start getting into a cost thing. Yeah. You get into the frozen food aisle, right?
Frozen pizzas, that's what I'm picturing. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So you're not going down there to get frozen peas most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are, like, great, grab your frozen peas and move on. But you start thinking about what's in those aisles, and that's less desirable stuff. Yeah. You get to the checkout, like, you don't be buying stuff at the checkout counter, right?
They try to get you. That's the last, like, Hail Mary throw.
You went to the grocery store hungry, you bought a lot of groceries, and you buy a Snickers bar on the way out the door, right? So So we're looking at some of those principles as a ministry to say, how do we make sure that we are getting the outside of the wall stuff handed out to folks so that they can be using it and we can use food as medicine. So my worlds have collided. Many of the friends that I have at the health system are friends now in this world. I'm excited about it because they're established relationships for me personally, and we're just continuing to partner and grow.
You just briefly mentioned it. Alice. Now, I'm going to sound naive, but I don't know anything about it. I just think of Alice in Wonderland, if I'm being honest, but Alice must stand for something.
It does. It does. So in Lebanon County, well, not in Lebanon County, but Lebanon County has a report. So we address and look at poverty, which is, poverty for a single household is income somewhere around $15,000.
Okay.
Poverty is, this number that's thrown out there from a federal government perspective that most of us couldn't even fathom, right? But then you hear the working poor, right? So that's Alice, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. Okay. So asset limited, meaning what I have is limited. By my income is constrained, but I'm still employed.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe not, maybe I have a job that has good income, good pay. I'm making $15-18 an hour, but I've got no benefits. So I don't have any health care. But if I'm making $15 or $18 an hour and I go to apply for medical assistance, maybe I'm making too much to actually be eligible for medical assistance. So now I need to take my income and I need to go to the marketplace and I buy healthcare for myself. And now by buying healthcare, I've just put myself back into poverty. Right. So it's these are the things. So in Lebanon County, United Way of Pennsylvania ran the report. United Way of Lebanon County has shared this messaging, but the Alice report says that a 2-person, 2-adult, 2-child household in Lebanon County should be earning somewhere around $30+ as a household per hour. And that meets basic necessities. That means no birthday parties, no rec baseball, none of that stuff. That is just pay rent, have a car, go to work, have insurance, pay childcare, get my kid to school. And some food.
But nothing. Yeah.
That's it. Nothing extra. You're not going down to the market to buy yourself a big T-bone to take home and grill.
So how do you get out of that? It's a vicious cycle,
we don't have enough time for that on the podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, the book I'm reading right now is called When Helping Hurts. It kind of walks through some of that, the 3 phases of somebody that's going through, trying to raise out. There's relief, rehabilitation, and then the last one is development. So when we say about relief is like an acute right now, whatever's going on in my life is going to cause significant problems. Mm-hmm. It's a Thursday afternoon. I'm getting ready to go into the weekend and I have 0 food in my cupboards. Not food that I don't like, 0 food in my cupboards. I need something to sustain me over the weekend. Relief is that I just got a bill for my electric and it's going to get shut off if I don't pay this bill. Those are some immediate relief things. So there are certainly folks in our community that live in that relief stage that we need to make some work, do some work to assist. But then the rehabilitation piece and then development piece. Rehabilitation is not when I say rehab, it's not going there for a day. Rehabilitation means that I'm going to work with somebody. I'm going to build up relationships. Most folks that we identify in our community in some level of poverty struggle significantly with relational poverty. Okay. And I'll give you this example. If you had, your transmission goes out of your car tomorrow, you may not have $2,000 in your checking account or savings account to go get that fixed. But if you needed to wait till the next paycheck to do that, you probably had relationships that would help you get to work or get things done until then.
Right.
Or you may have a relationship that says, hey, I'll give you the $2,000 today, give you some help. Mm-hmm. We talk about that in the church community. The church community is often those relationships that exist. Many of the folks that we see in our world at LCCM lack those relationships. They may have destroyed them on their own, whatever it is, but those relationships are lacking. So we kind of have a new thing that we've been talking about is connection before correction. How do we build some of those relationships, even with our own people? So when somebody's in our homeless shelter, our staff, they become our family.
Part
right?
of
So we're constantly building that relationship. We want to build that relationship so that we connect with them before we then begin to correct. And the correction piece is, hey, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what's your dream? And it's amazing how many people say, oh, I don't really have a dream. I don't know what I want to do. And the reality is, like, come on, man. Like, God gave you many talents. Like, let's dream. So if you want to be a nurse, you may not be able to go to RN school today, but how do we get you into a CNA program that you can get a job at a hospital that they're going to help pay you, right? Because And part of it is our society demands immediate gratification.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of allowing us to have the opportunity to grow. So, yeah, I mean, man, you can get me on a roll here. So how do we really alleviate this Alice piece? Is we've got to continue to build community, build relationships with folks. You know, it's not okay just to drive down the street and give somebody $5. Take that person to dinner. There's a great book. Now I'm going to try to remember what it is. Invisible Thread.
Okay.
Incredible book. It's about a business lady in New York City. She's walked through, a little boy's asking her for money for food. And she says, no, come on, I'll take you for lunch. And she took him to McDonald's and got him some food. And they end up kind of building a relationship. And today, I think they were on like Good Morning America or something like that.
Really?
But yeah, they call it Invisible Thread. Great book. And it's a great example of how building a relationship with somebody, you know, we're sometimes afraid to get our hands dirty. And I encourage people to get your hands dirty.
Work together to better yourself and the community. So last couple questions here to end it. Tips for healthy living and tips to either start people's journey getting closer to the Lord and Jesus Christ. I just wanted some quick tips if you have them.
All right, quick tips.
Yep.
I'll go back to the Daniel plan, man. If it was grown on a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, start thinking about cutting it out of your life. It's not that easy. I know it's hard, but that's a good one. Get up and do something. You know, exercise is exercise. You may not go out with me and do a 45, 60-mile bike ride on a Saturday morning. That's okay. I got friends that do that with me. It's all good. But there's nothing wrong with getting your, you know, butt up off the couch and getting out and going for a mile walk tonight and 2 miles tomorrow night. And next thing you know, in a few weeks, you'll be running a 5K. Build relationship, build community around you, both in your food and in your life. Those are big deal things. Accountability, having accountability partners. I don't care if it's if you're struggling with eating problems, pornography, drug addiction, alcohol, having an accountability partner, somebody that you can call and say, dude, I'm having this craving. I don't care if it's over peanut butter pretzel or if it's pornography. That person needs to be there to reach out, right? So, and that leads into we've got a great church that our family is connected to that has created family for us. There's no perfect church out there. There's the right church for you. I will hear people say, I have a great relationship with Jesus Christ, but I just happen to watch videos on a Sunday at home. That doesn't cut the mustard. Church is the community. Church is where church brings people together. Those are relationships. How do you do that? Man, you just gotta jump. You just gotta go for it, and dig into the Word. Dig in. Really read your Bible. It's amazing how many individuals that I know who were raised in the church, grew up in the church, go to church, and don't know the Word. But there are an awful lot of men and women that come in the doors of LCCM who may have been in prison, who live on the streets. And it's amazing how many of them have dug into the Word and know the Word. So get in there, start reading, and, just get at it.
Why do you personally do what you do day in and day out?
Yeah, that's the what's the why, right? What's your greater why?
Correct.
I've got kiddos. We all have the ability to be difference makers. And I think it's cliche to say, I really love people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I do. I like being around people. I think that we can make a difference by coming together as community. I love seeing people partner. There's some great partnerships going on in this community right now. And through those relationships and those partnerships, I want to be part of making this a better place, making this a better community to live, work, and play in. And I tell you that I'm only doing this job because it's somebody else's plan, not mine. Jesus Christ had this plan for me. He said, you're going to do this for this long, and I'm going to change your life, and you're going to do this. And, he's been a difference maker in my life. Yeah.
Oh, I firmly believe that. I believe in episode 1, I even mentioned that there is a higher power that plans our life, and whether it's good or bad at the time or sad or happy, it's planned out, and we're all here for a reason, So now how can our listeners connect with you and follow along on your journey and also learn more about Lebanon County Christian Ministries?
Well, I guess personally it's tough since I gave up social media, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a little tough.
I guess you could still go to Facebook and find me on there and put me a friend request, and the next time I get on to look at something, I'll accept it. But I still have a bunch of my friends that tag me in posts. People come to me and say, "Hey, dude, I saw you did this," and I'm like, "You did? How'd you see that?" Somebody tugged me in it, but. I really I've disconnected from social media. So here's how you can do it is I guess come swing by LCCM and see me sometime. I'll give you a tour and you can come volunteer with us sometime. So that's how folks can connect with me from that aspect. What was else? What was I supposed to say? Connection and what else?
Connect with Lebanon County Christian Ministries.
So with Lebanon County Christian. So we are on that thing called the World Wide Web. I don't know if anybody goes to that anymore, but lccm.us is our website. We are on social media platforms for LCCM. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Really great resource and a great need that we have, and you could be a resource is our overnight homeless shelter. We rely on volunteers to spend the night with our guests. They spend the night at the Chestnut Street Community Center at 6th and Chestnut Street. It's a simple get online, request it. I send you to watch a video of a training, and it's an incredible way to kind of get your feet wet with our ministry. So love to have folks join us there.
Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know?
I have a scripture that's probably my favorite scripture. It's in Philippians 4:6. Worry about nothing and pray about everything. If we could just unite as a community and raise our community up in prayer and our brothers and sisters in prayer and worry about nothing, our Lord and Savior, He's got a plan for us, and He will provide.
Life would be much better, I believe.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bryan Smith from Lebanon County Christian Ministries on the American Grown podcast in the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
If you want to see more American Grown content, follow along on Facebook and Instagram. Username American Grown Podcast. If you received any value, please share this episode with friends, family, and coworkers. And lastly, subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to be a featured guest on the podcast, please direct message or email Austin at americangrownpod@gmail.com.